Welcome to the Goat Factory podcast, where we speak with some of the greatest minds about creative problem solving in their company culture. I'm your host, Mark Kuhn. In each episode, we demystify the word innovation by revealing people, processes, and products behind it. My guest today is Rosie Mattio, CEO of Mattio Communications. She's been called the Queen of Cannabis PR by Forbes magazine and is responsible for bringing the first cannabis stories to both Oprah and Vogue. Her team at NYC-based Mattio Communications boasts an unrivaled roster of some of the most recognizable names in the emerging industry, including brands like Curaleaf, Lantern, and I Heart Jane. Her work has been featured in Rolling Stone magazine, and in 2020, Rosie was named a 40 under 40 recipient for Marijuana Venture Journal. Rosie Mattio, welcome to Goat Factory.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, likewise. So this podcast is all about innovation, like I said. So we like to start at the beginning, which is this phrase, which sometimes we think of it as a buzzword. Sometimes we think it's like actually misdefined as a lot of different things. When you think innovation, what do you think?
I feel like it's bringing something new to, a market, discovering a white space. That's innovation to me. And I do feel that, we played a part in innovating and part of communication in cannabis. So I like this. I like the topic today.
Yeah. And it's also, we think of it in terms of not just like the aquifer and this flywheel of like the process and the culture in a business, but also, like you said, you're in unexplored space, you're in blue sky, you're completely in the new of unexplored territory. So let's go back to the beginning. You're working with brands like Purely Elizabeth, Popcorn Indiana, kind of food and tech PR. This is, early days for Mattio. Were you attracted to brands like this because it was innovative on the food side?
Yeah, it was. And I always talk about Purely Elizabeth this way. She was using cacao and chia before anybody else. So I even think her granola was an emerging industry, right? So when I look back on it, I guess I really was always attracted to, what was new and things that had been untapped. So yeah, I think it did set me up well for what we're doing today.
And it's also, we think about even that in that case, right? In Purely Elizabeth's case, it's just the choice of an ingredient in cacao where that choice was the innovative decision, right? That was the new part of whatever this new product was, in this case, granola. But I think it's sometimes we hear the buzzword, and it's like, it's always like tech, and it's tech CEOs, and it's like, what's the new blockchain? What's the new Nifty? And what's, all of these sort of tangible, but also difficult to ineffable type technologies. In this case, it was like, oh, here's something that's never been done before. We should try that.
Yeah, grain-free, all these things that we hear all the time now. She launched this in 2009 or 2008. Yeah. Like it's been a while, and it was definitely not part of the common like health or wellness vernacular. Now, ancient grain, gluten-free,
everywhere.
And you go down Whole Foods, the entire aisle says that, but she was really an innovator. And I have to say, she happens to be, one of my best friends from college. So, it's been fun to really like watch that happen. And our mothers actually always joke, like, you two little college roommates, going out there and, getting after the world, but it's really fun. And I'm so proud of her. And it's just amazing to see how she's really become, a force and an innovator.
That's it's funny you say that. We're actually working on a project right now for Oat Foundry, kind of like backed into cannabis. Like our process is product design and process improvement. And my college roommate, same story, had started a company in South Carolina and was like, we really need a company we can trust to do this. And texted, like Instagram DM'd me and was like, can you guys give us a shot? It was like, yeah, totally. Sure. Why not? So now we're learning sort of like the other steps that go into working in the cannabis industry. But okay, so still in the past. We're still in the past right now. It's 2014. You just moved to Seattle. That was like they had just approved, I think, adult use cannabis, and you got recruited to work on the Stoner's Cookbook, which is now called Herb. We're such big fans of like this. Innovators DNA calls it association. So it's like the engine that leads to these light bulb moments. Back then, were you thinking that? Like, what did you have reservations about jumping into the space? You're coming from specialty food. Was it a natural progression?
Yeah, so in many ways, it fell into my lap. And I have to think that, I don't know why I didn't think anything of it, right? Like, I think they say that's part of like the entrepreneurship, that little bit of like crazy in your head that like, you just don't think about it and you go for it. But yeah, I mean, my background was in food and tech, as you said. And I was, because of one of my contacts, I was actually doing work for a crowdfunding platform for books, right? So I'd worked on a book on like, on textiles. But one of the projects they gave me was a cannabis cookbook. And it came to like, this sounds pretty cool, right? And like it was and I was still working in food. I'm like, well, I know how to pitch these at crowdfunding platforms. I know tech. I definitely know food. I'm like, I think this is going to do something. And I'd always been very good at what I had done. But when I pitched the cannabis cookbook, when New York Times and Fast Company, all these food reporters, normally I was like begging them to write stories, even though I was good. It's not that easy to just send a pitch and they're like, we want the exclusive. And when it was a cannabis cookbook, they were all clamoring for it. I had to like, triage like who was the more important editor. And so that was that light bulb moment where I was
Play
like,
favorites.
wow, like
Yeah.
this is cool. Like, success breeds success. And when everybody's clamoring for the story, you realize that there's something here. So that was a light bulb moment. And as I like to say, the rest is history, even though it's been a long history, even though it's only been 6 years. So
Right.
that's
But
really,
it's moving.
that really got me into the space.
And we're moving at light speed, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm such a fan of this. Like you had said, they were all clamoring for this in terms of like editorial content. Like they were ready for, it was a primed market for this kind of new, emerging
Because they
topic.
weren't ready for it. Like nobody had pitched the New York Times food editor about cannabis yet. It was still so early. Like the Maureen Dowd story hadn't come out about her overeating edibles.
Right.
The packaging isn't where it is today. Nobody was going to Florence Fabricant, who does new products about cannabis. So same thing with Fast Company. We're one of the first or second stories ever written about cannabis. Like
So they're not ready for it. But then how did you get that, like the Velcro effect, like where they were like, oh yeah, this is what we want to talk about?
I mean, I think that coming in through food gave it like an approach that they were already covering food. So this
Soft
happened
landing.
Very, very cool food. It was cannabis, right? And nobody was writing about it. And as a reporter, you're getting like thousands of pitches a day and they're all the same. And it's all about the new popcorn or whatever it is, but like new cannabis, like this was new. And I just didn't, these are my reporters, and in PR it comes down to who your contacts are, right? So it was a natural fit. I think I was more successful in the cannabis cookbook because it was cannabis, obviously, and also because I had these amazing food contacts. So I just felt I could do it. And I went after these reporters the way I was traditionally pitching them new food products. I use the same type of language and the same approach and why it should matter to them. And it was just a very, very new subject matter. So this was new to them. So of course they're going to write about it.
Right. So there's that newsworthy element of it is new. It actually is new.